What is up, guys? Welcome to Garage 23, and today we got another Maxpeedingrods unboxing. This time they sent us some coilovers for the S14, so let's check them out. All right, so they reached out to us a while ago and asked us if we had anything else that needed some parts that they could provide, and we were like, well, our S14 has some bootleg Megan coilovers that we bought secondhand that are just terrible and make it not fun to drive. So I was like, do you guys have any coilovers for S14s? And they're like, yeah, we got these brand new coilovers that they're releasing. They're 24-way adjustable, height adjustable through separate lower mount and spring perch height adjustments. They also come in a new color, which we're gonna try out. Our first experience with Maxpeedingrods was actually when we first got our 350Z. We got some coilovers in a trade. We got two sets actually, a set of Tane coilovers and a set of Maxpeedingrods coilovers. And naturally I put the Tanes on first because I thought Maxpeedingrods is just, you know, your basic eBay brand. So I went with the Tanes first. The Tanes were terrible. They were the basic ones that had like basically no adjustment, and you had to supply your own top hats and stuff. But yeah, they were super bouncy and it bottomed out really easily. So I was not a big fan. So eventually I ended up swapping them out for the Maxpeedingrods coilovers that I got, and I was surprised at how well they rode. They were better than the Tanes. So I left them on there and I was using them all the way up until I got the BC coilovers that we have now. I've been very surprised with like the quality that they offer and at the price point that they offer it at. I mean, you just can't beat the value, especially like with the turbo that they sent us for the R34. I still don't understand the math behind that because they sell it for about between $100 and $150 for an OEM replacement turbo for an RB. I mean, compared to like any other turbo that's like in the thousands, it's like, I don't know how they make money on that, but like, it is a fantastic turbo, and it's much better than the stock one because the stock one's made of like ceramic and plastic and does not like being anywhere above 7 PSI. So we're at 10 PSI on low boost and 15 PSI on high boost, and the MXR turbo is just perfectly fine. We've had no issues, so we're loving that, and we definitely trust Maxpeedingrods, so do you? So this is their new set of coilovers, and I gotta say, this new colorway that they're offering is like super cool. I love that blue. It's actually kind of blue I was thinking of going with for the R34 for the accents on that. So these look awesome. That's our front and the rears. All right, so here we have our full set of coilovers. And first thing to note is that they're height adjustable from the lower mount. That's the main thing you want in coilovers, because if the lower mount isn't adjustable, you're going to be forced to adjust your ride height by the spring perch. And that's not super desirable because then you could bottom out the shock, or you'll have like at full extension, you'll have like issues with the spring coming off the seats. They're also 24-way adjustable dampening on all four. And they have pillow ball upper mounts on all four also. That's something that's a little different from other coilovers because especially on the rear of an S14, you usually just see like a rubber bushing kind of mount. So it's cool that they use pillow ball mounts on all four. And then on the front, same thing, adjustable lower mounts. And it's nice to see the brake line bracket built in also. What's nice about this is I noticed the brake line bracket is actually mounted a little lower, which is something that kind of gets in the way on other coilovers. They'll put it in the same exact position as the OEM one, which you think would be a good thing, but when you lower the car 3 or 4 inches, the brake line mount being higher up kind of forces the brake line up too. So it's nice that this one's actually placed lower because then it's in a more natural position once you lower the car. So it's nice to see that little attention to detail. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and start taking stuff apart and put these on. All right, so for this job, you're gonna need a 12mm deep socket with a small extension, 14mm impact socket, 17mm impact socket, 19mm impact socket, 17mm wrench, needle nose pliers, and an impact. Optional if you don't have one, it's fine, but let's get started. All right, so for the front, you're gonna need your 19mm socket and 17mm wrench. And it's just gonna be these 2 bolts on the lower mount. And then you have your brake line clip, which I like to use needle nose for. You can also use like a flathead screwdriver and a hammer or something like that if yours are on there pretty tough, but needle nose work fine for me. Get your brake line out of the way. coilover is free, and then switch to our 14 mil to get the top mount. Now be careful with the third one because the shock isn't mounted anymore, so you gotta catch it. And try not to drop everything. All right, that's our front. And that's awesome. We were already using Maxpeedingrods top mounts on this. So when we got these coilovers, the top mounts were just like destroyed. And I forgot that I had already bought Maxpeedingrods upper mounts for this. So can't make that up. It's awesome. All right, so for the rear, there's only one 17 mil bolt holding the lower mount on. And then the top is a little more complicated because we gotta go inside the car, take some trim apart, try not to break anything, and then undo the 12 mil bolts that are holding the top on. All right, so for the top mounts on the rear struts, we have to get under the rear deck. So pull down the back seat, and then this rear deck, just be careful with it. There's just like pop clips that secured into the rear deck. It's basically made of cardboard, so be careful. Okay, so once you got that off, there is a little protective cover on top of the shock. Then you can get to the two 12 millimeter nuts that are holding it on. So another thing to note is I unbolted the lower mount, but I left it in place because I didn't want the shock to fall out once we undo these two. So there we go. So it's both of them. So now we can take the shock out. All right, so now I should be able to move this out of the way and get the shock out. Ta-da. All right, so before we put the new coilovers on, we need to at least try and match the heights as closely as we can so that we don't affect our alignment too much. All you really gotta do is make sure that the new ones are the same height as the old ones. So just loosen the lower mount and unscrew it till the height is about the same. So it's close enough. Let's spin the lock perch down. Then we can tighten that up once we have everything on the car. And same thing for all the other ones. Rears, same thing. Loosen the lock collar and unscrew this, which is gonna be a while, so. All right, now we can go ahead and start putting everything back together. Hopefully everything fits fine. It's nice that these come with new hardware too. Okay, so when you install the top mount, you wanna make sure that your camber adjustment is perpendicular to the car. Actually, I don't even think it'll install any other way. Let's find out. Let's see if we can install it incorrectly. Yes, you can in fact install it incorrectly. So make sure the slots are perpendicular to your car. Like this, because you can in fact put it on wrong. And that won't help your camber adjustment at all. So this way, you can adjust this top hat and give yourself negative camber or positive camber if you need it. Now for our lower mount. It's also nice that these upper bolt holes on the lower mount are slotted, so you can give yourself a little bit of positive or negative camber just from this lower mount without messing with the top hat. You actually want to do this first and not mess with the top mount too much, because the angle at which the top mount is at kind of affects other suspension geometry. So you want to do it this way first. So what I would usually do is make sure it's maxed out positively, because you're usually going to lower the car and thus going to need positive camber to get you back into spec. So I just max this out positive and go from there. Then put our brake line back on and tighten our top mount and move on to the back. Now onto the rear. Okay, so back here, you want to thread the coilover through the control arms. I think we want to put the lower mount on first and then maybe use the jack to hold it up. So put our lower mount in place. All right, so we're just gonna put the jack under the knuckle and bring it up. And we just need to guide the upper mount to go in the appropriate location. There we go. Now put the bolts in, or nuts in on top. All right, so we just got two. I'm opting to reuse the old hardware actually, and they do thread on to the Maxpeedingrods coilovers. The nuts that they supplied were 13mm nuts. I'm using these because they're 12, and it's gonna make it less of a pain if we need to remove them or whatever later on, because 12 is a more normal metric size. Probably gonna swap the front ones out too, because nobody usually uses a 15mm socket. And while we're here, we're gonna try and zero this out. So we're gonna go all the way to the left and then count how many clicks we have all the way to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 23, 24. 24. So yeah, these are 24-way adjustable. Just wanted to make sure. So our midpoint is gonna be 12. So count back 12. 1, 2, 11, 12. So we just want to start out in the middle and then work our way up or down depending on how we feel it feels and go from there. We are done, and a little surprise we throw in here. We switched the wheels from the R34 to the S14 because I think these are going to look great on here, and they're much better for the specs that the wheels are. Since we're going to go basically wide body on the R34, these wheels wouldn't fit later on, but they're going to fit perfect for this car. Although we had to remove the spacer from the rear, so the rear looks kind of sunken in right now, and the front looks kind of flush because we got a 25mm spacer up here and no spacer in the back because we had a 50mm in there. This big guy wasn't gonna fit back there with these wheels, so we're gonna have to figure something else out for that. But for now, we're done. And normally we do a little test drive and B-roll, but our clutch broke, so the car doesn't really move right now. And then we'll do the drive around, B-roll, and review later on. But for now, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, and remember, always do your best.